It's the holiday season, so it's time to give the people what they want. By popular demand, this week we're looking at the history of the sonic-booming Decepticon who isn't convinced he's on the right side. THUNDERCRACKER! The toy that would become THUNDERCRACKER was originally released in the Japanese toy line Diaclone in 1983, under the name Jet Robo. It transformed into an F-15 Eagle jet fighter, and was imported by Hasbro to become part of the first year of the Transformers toy line in 1984, in which it was also released in two other color schemes as THUNDERCRACKER's fellow Decepticon jets, Skywarp and Starscream. THUNDERCRACKER was one of the very earliest Transformers characters for whom a profile was written, as part of the original treatment for the franchise assembled by Marvel Comics writers Jim Shooter and Denny O'Neil. He was characterized as being contemptuous of any creature that couldn't fly, but also as a Decepticon who wasn't fully convinced of the rightness of their cause, who only stuck with them out of a desperate need for a sense of purpose in life. Now, that said, Shooter and O'Neil initially ascribed this personality to Starscream. It was during later revisions that writer Bob Budiansky reattributed it to THUNDERCRACKER and gave him the special power to generate deafening sonic booms at will, which he used to sow terror among his victims. Unfortunately, the intriguing idea of a doubting Decepticon wasn't explored in any classic Transformers media. Much like his flying partner Skywarp, THUNDERCRACKER just wasn't a very notable character back in the 80s. Both the Marvel comic and the animated series treated him as little more than a generic Decepticon goon, just sorta there. Always around, but rarely doing anything significant. He never even once used his sonic booms in battle in the whole cartoon. The closest anything came to exploring his wavering loyalties was when he got into a short-lived argument with Starscream in the episode Fire on the Mountain, and contemplated letting the Autobot Skyfire wreck Megatron's newest weapon so that he could pin the blame on his fellow Decepticon. After 2 years in this limited role, THUNDERCRACKER's toy was discontinued in 1986, which led to him being killed off in both the comic, in which he was scrapped by Omega Supreme, and in the Transformers the movie, in which he was injured in battle, jettisoned into space, and had his remains recreated by the monster planet Unicron into the fearsome tracker, Scourge. He would later return to life in the comic, but it was a brief resurrection, as he was quickly killed once more by a cosmically powered Starscream. One further toy of THUNDERCRACKER was released in the original toy line, a non-transforming Action Master figure, which came with a jet that converted into a suit of armor THUNDERCRACKER could wear. Available only in Europe and Australasia in 1991, the figure was unsurprisingly a recolor of the Action Master Starscream toy. But infamously, rather than THUNDERCRACKER's traditional blue, it was, for some reason, decked out in a gaudy mixture of pink, purple and green. THUNDERCRACKER would be even more unrecognizable when he was next seen in 1997's Machine Wars toy line, which rendered him as a small green Dassault Rafale jet. The first new incarnation of THUNDERCRACKER was also the first to revive the original's classic blue color scheme. Introduced in Transformers Armada in 2003, this new THUNDERCRACKER was a recolor of the Armada Starscream toy, and was characterized as an overlooked member of the Decepticons who often took dangerous risks in his efforts to prove himself to Megatron. In the Japanese market, however, this toy was reimagined not as THUNDERCRACKER, but as a powered-up version of Starscream himself. And since the Armada cartoon was produced in Japan, this was how the toy was incorporated into its story, leading to this line of dialogue being inserted into the English language version of the show after Starscream got his new colors to reconcile the two ideas.
It looked like THUNDERCRACKER.
Armada THUNDERCRACKER got a makeover for the 2005 sequel series Transformers Cybertron, acquiring his own unique design distinct from that series' Starscream, transforming into a Sukhoi Su-37 jet fighter. In this form, he appeared in the Cybertron cartoon, still very much a goon, but a memorably enthusiastic and goofy one. Always up for a fight, and with a fondness for over-the-top, overlong attack name callouts.
Super electric lightning thundercracking punch!
All that for a punch?
But this eagerness didn't translate into a lot of success. THUNDERCRACKER spent much of the show getting his butt soundly kicked, and in the series finale, he decided to give up evil and join the Autobots just so he could be on the winning team, until his fellow Decepticons dragged him back to their side at the last minute. With his original design and regular presence in the cartoon, the Cybertron character was very much the exception among THUNDERCRACKERs in the 21st century. In the years that have followed his release, there have been a great many more THUNDERCRACKER toys, and virtually all of them have been recolored Starscreams, just like the original was. It's a practice that's resulted in the creation of many different incarnations of THUNDERCRACKER in the various different Transformers universes. But while their personalities have all been pretty different, like the original, none of them have ever been the subject of much focus in media. For instance, the THUNDERCRACKER of the live-action movie universe was a chaotic Decepticon who thrived on the fear he instilled in his victims, of whom several toys were released. But his appearances were limited to tie-in video games and comic books, in which he was groomed by Starscream to be his second-in-command, and developed a rivalry with the Autobot RC. Transformers Animated chose to emphasize the fact that THUNDERCRACKER was just a recolor by depicting him, Skywarp, and the other characters who have shared their design over the years as literal clones of Starscream. Each clone represented an aspect of Starscream's personality. THUNDERCRACKER was a self-aggrandizing egomaniac, with only a brief role in the series that ended when he and Skywarp were hurled through a portal into deep space. A full-size toy of animated THUNDERCRACKER was designed, but it was never released, with only a small-scale activator figure of him being sold at retail. The THUNDERCRACKER of the aligned continuity, meanwhile, had toys made in his image in both the Transformers Prime and Generations toy lines, but his only significant media appearance was in a single level of the War for Cybertron video game, which characterized him as a calm, intellectual scientist. So yeah, while THUNDERCRACKER has maintained a reputation as a significant legacy character with a bigger and more regular presence in the many iterations of the Transformers franchise than most, outside of the atypical Cybertron THUNDERCRACKER, it's not really because he's ever done much, with his status being more a product of the fact that he originated in the brand's first year, he's an easy recolor to make, and he's part of a classic set of 3 that fans want to see completed each time a new toy of one of them gets released. But there has been one piece of media that has put the spotlight on THUNDERCRACKER and explored the original idea of the Decepticon who didn't fully believe in what his side was fighting for, and that was IDW Publishing's comic books. THUNDERCRACKER was one of the first Transformers to appear in IDW's comics when they launched in 2005. But it was in the 2008 series All Hail Megatron that the atrocities the Decepticons committed during their full-scale invasion of Earth led the doubting THUNDERCRACKER to conclude that they had lost their way. Turning against his comrades, he saved the Autobots from a nuclear bomb strike Megatron had orchestrated. Injured by Skywarp in retaliation for his betrayal, he proceeded to go into hiding on Earth, spending his time watching human television broadcasts, fascinated by the adaptability of the human species, unlike Transformers, who had been locked in unchanging war for millennia. In the years that followed, he became an ally of the Earth Defense Command, who granted him sanctuary and companionship in the form of a dog named Buster. And his love of television evolved into a desire to become a screenwriter himself. He periodically found himself having to emerge from his cozy life to help the Autobots defend his new adopted homeworld against the dangers posed by the Decepticons and other alien forces. Reluctantly at first, but with growing resolve each time there was a new threat to face. And he gradually formed a friendship with EDC Commander Marissa Fairborn, piercing her tough exterior with his enthusiastic, if slightly goofy and wide-eyed approach to his new life. THUNDERCRACKER would ultimately get the chance to realize his dream, first making a movie about the life of Starscream, and then another about the G.I. Joe Chuckles, and the comics came to an end in 2018, with THUNDERCRACKER waiting to hear if he'd won the award for Best Screenplay. Other recent appearances by THUNDERCRACKER have included cameos by multiple robots wearing his colors in the Bumblebee movie, a recurring supporting role in the Transformers Cyberverse cartoon as one of the Decepticon jets under the command of Slipstream, and a new figure in the War for Cybertron Siege toy line based on his Cybertronian mode from the original cartoon. If this toy will lead to appearances by Thundercracker in IDW's new rebooted comics, or the upcoming War for Cybertron Netflix animated series, we don't yet know. But hopefully, writers will continue to see the potential in old TC's unique personality and not let him fall back into the background. And those are the basics on Thundercracker! Which version is your favourite? Head down to the comments and sound off. If you've enjoyed this video, maybe hit the like button and subscribe to the basics for more Transformers history and lore.